Go for
Yes.
it.
Oh, okay. Oh, now.
Take it
now.
away. Sorry.
Okay. No, that's okay. I want to actually ask because I do like to give choices. Would you like to hear a travel story, or my Final Fantasy MMO headcanon?
Ooh.
Travel story.
I'm
Yeah, I
feeling
think
travel
travel
story.
Travel story.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Two travel story. Carrie.
I want the Final Fantasy headcanon.
Final
I want the
Fantasy
Final
headcanon.
Fantasy headcanon too, even though I know nothing about Final Fantasy.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay. Joe, would you be the tiebreaker?
Sorry, what are the choices?
The choices are Final Fantasy MMO headcanon or a travel story.
I don't know anything about Final Fantasy.
That's fine. Doesn't
I'm gonna
matter.
I'll go with travel.
Travel story. Excellent.
I think
All
I'll
right.
be able to
So,
identify more with your position in a travel story than I would in a Final Fantasy story.
the Final Fantasy story is more along the lines of Jacob embarrasses himself with all of the nerdy things he thinks about in his mind, brain space. For no one. I share it with nobody. I just play the game, and that's where I am in my head. But travel story, and we can perhaps do the Final Fantasy 14 story another day, and I can take pictures of my guild house or something. So,
Oh, I didn't want to get pictures.
what's that?
Nothing.
Not
Go
today,
ahead.
though.
No. Tomorrow, I can bring in pictures and get that set up for tomorrow. Actually, one of my guild members, Ryan Ike, one of my free company mates, now free company mates, who I got into Final Fantasy 14, already took a bunch of pictures of the guild hall because Ryan Ike has the dark gift and takes amazing pictures in that game with the picture tool. But travel story. So, as many of you may or may not know, I have traveled quite a few places all over the world. One of those places was Poland. I lived in Poland for about 6 months in a city called Tychy, which was near the southern border of Poland. It is known for Tyskie beer, and so it may actually be very famous for other things. There are things that I am not aware of. I said that for a bit before somebody corrects me. So what I did there was teach English. And one of the things that I had to do, because I very foolishly told the place that I was teaching English at that I used to be a kids teacher. And they were like, well, you used to be a kids teacher. We've got the job for you. We're going to send you once a week to a kindergarten that you're going to have to drive about an hour to get to. I don't have a car, says I. And they say, worry not, we will send someone to pick you up at your apartment. Every time that I was picked up at my apartment, it was a different person in a different car who spoke no English. It was some variety of Fiat in some state of repair, and it was like I was rolling the dice every time. My mastery of Polish is generally limited to soup ingredients and what I can buy at the supermarket. It used to be better. It is now 3 vegetables and hello and possibly good morning or do you smell nice? I'm not sure. I've forgotten most of it. So for 6 months, once a week, I would get into mystery car with mystery driver and drive out to a kindergarten in another city about an hour and a half away through the most desolate landscape that I have ever seen. In some of the harshest winters that I have ever seen. I grew up in upstate New York. I thought I knew what winters were. I was wrong. Poland knows what winters are. Jack Frost does not care about you and will kick you over and take all of your lunch money and then demand you bring more tomorrow. Winters in Poland were revelatory, as walking over fire is revelatory. And whether or not the mystery driver in the mystery car turned on the heat, cared about turning on the heat, or whether or not the heat worked, was yet another randomization of this very special day that I would go out to this kindergarten. Driving through landscapes that were nothing but white. That which a writer most fear. I would get to the kindergarten. And the first time that I got there, the teacher burst out of the door, ran up to me, and took both of my hands in her hands. She was a beautiful woman. I instantly had a crush on her. She looked me in the eye, and my heart skipped a beat. And she said 2 words to me. These were the last 2 words she said to me in 6 months. She said, "Thank you," and then ran around to the back of the school and started chain smoking like a steam engine, pulling far too heavy a load. And I entered. There's a book of the Bible called Revelation. It mentions many demons, the veritable apocalypse in Christian mythology. There's a demon that's mentioned in there named Legion, one force and many bodies. I met Legion that day as I entered this crucible for the first day for 6 months. Children lined up before me with no supervision because the supervision had left, sitting silently and staring. 24 tiny bodies locked on one individual. Me. I shut the door and I said hello. And then they started to go bananas. They looked outside, they saw their teacher outside, and then tore that place apart for an hour. They ran over me, they tore my clothes, they drew on everything. Everything. They are this big. The ceiling somehow got drawn on, and I don't know to this day how it happened. The entire time was a flash. Skipped from me saying hello to walking out, back into the snow, praying that winter would give me the sweet release. But knowing that it would not, for I would have to come back the next week. And the scene, every time, was the same. Except I did not get to see the teacher once again because by the time I had arrived, they had begun murdering their lungs, 1 cigarette at a time. I was merely there as a stopgap, a sacrifice, if you will. In that desolate place, in that desolate winter, in that desolate room, just me and one demon in 24 little bodies. That's it.
Jesus. Jeez Louise.
No. It's not there.
Not.
I'm so lucky. Penelope's very sweet and very well behaved. She doesn't do that. She's never drawn on the ceiling.
Yeah. There's a reason
Ow.
I don't have kids.
I love the idea of dropping you, speaking very little Polish, into a classroom full of children who probably spoke very little English for an hour.
Correct.
So that you could control and teach them.
Yeah. That didn't happen.
I feel like control and teach are both in heavy air quotes there.
Some of them knew how to swear.
I think what,
So advanced.
I think what Jacob actually did was Jacob just tanked those kids for an hour to keep them occupied.
Yeah.
This is why I'm a red mage in games. I'm not. I don't. Look at me. This is not a tank. This is not a tank. Maddie, are you ready to heal us?
Our healer!
Yes, except